So before we get started, we'll do some quick team intros. And we have tried, but you can't tell, but we've tried, very last minute, this is why it's a bit naff, to go ragged for our meeting. Now this, it's an attempt at green. I'm Ruth Geddes, co-founder of Prospect Change. Really enjoy doing these webinars. It's such a great opportunity for us to meet so many of you and to hear your experiences and your learnings as well. It's a great opportunity for us all to learn and just grow our network together. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Asha, who's in red.
Hi guys, I'm Asha. It's so nice to see so many of you here with us this morning, well, this afternoon. I am the social media and engagement coordinator for Prospect Change, as well as a PMO consultant. And yeah, it's just so nice to see all of you here today, and I hope this webinar is really insightful and that you take something valuable from it. I'll pass on to Dev.
Hi guys, I'm Blue as completion, and my name is Deb, and I work at Prospect Change, and I'm the Business and Project Support Officer, and I've been working here for the past three and a half years, and it's been a beautiful journey of different projects and different rag colours for sure.
Lots of different rag colours. We all know about a rag. We do have an amber due to join us, which is Jen, my wonderful co-founder, but she's having technical difficulties, unfortunately. So we've tried to get her into the call, and she's doing an appearing and disappearing act. So there's teams playing up for her, but hopefully Jen, our Amber, will make an appearance at some point. But yeah, maybe she would have been better off red today, seeing as she's experiencing those technical issues. But let's jump into the slides. Dev, Asha, can we see those slides okay?
Yes, we can.
Fabulous. Making RAID work for you. That's what we're talking about today. Give you a quick overview into Prospect Change before we get started. And then we'll delve into what is RAID. We always spend some time at the beginning of all of these webinars, no matter what the topic is, making sure we are all on the same page around that particular topic. So what do we mean when we talk about RAID? What is it? Let's set the scene. Let's make sure we're all on the same page. We're then going to delve into 3 problems, and Dev is going to take the lead on that. We're really excited to have Dev lead us on some areas of the webinar today. That's, I think, the first time that you've stepped into presenting mode on these webinars, isn't it, Dev?
Yes, that's the first time.
Yeah.
Quite excited.
It's great. It's great. It's good to tag team it. So Dev's going to talk you through the top 3 problems that we see when it comes to RAID and the problems that causes for projects and ultimately portfolios as a whole. Then we're going to go into the role of a PMO, a portfolio management office, when it comes to RAID, and how essential a PMO is when it comes to RAID, but also how essential a RAID is for a successful PMO. We're then going to go into the group discussion. You will see that the call is recorded, that the event is recorded, but we will just say that at the point of group discussions, we do not share this recording wider without first cutting the group discussion. So we always remove the group discussion from the recording before this recording is shared with anybody that isn't present here today, or even with yourselves. That group recording is not circulated round. Sorry, that group discussion is not circulated round as part of the recording. And then we'll jump into what is our next event, just so that you can get that in your diaries, ready to go. And that'll bring us to a close and hopefully give you some chance to have a cup of coffee and a bit of lunch before you get into your afternoon meetings. So Prospect Change, who are we? All of that along. So we were founded in 2022.
Sorry, Reed, you're crashing at the moment. Sorry.
Can you see the slide?
We stuck with the agenda. Now we can see it.
You can see it, perfect. Thank you for letting me know.
Just lagged a little bit. It's gone back to normal now.
Am I back?
Okay. I've figured out my slide how to work. So do you want me to share it for internet?
Let's do that, because yeah, it looks like my Wi-Fi is struggling with it. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind, Dev, that'd be fab. Thank you. So yeah, Prospect Change, we were founded in 2022 by myself and Jen. So we've just completed our 4th year. We've started our 4th birthday. So we started our 5th year, and we are based in Bradford. but we cover the whole of the UK, and actually I've had the amazing opportunity to deliver projects outside of the UK, particularly across Dubai and Saudi Arabia. And we've worked with teams that are global as well when their client base has been here in the UK. We have two very clear missions in mind when we launch Prospect Change. We are huge advocates for the Strategic Portfolio Management Office of helping organisations connect their projects with their change and their change to strategy and stabilisation of the organisation. And when you can bring that golden thread, and the Portfolio Management Office is the custodian of that golden thread, the PMO really steps into a brand new space, a real elevated space where they have true influence when it comes to key decisions that are being made in an organisation, and also the growth and stabilisation of that organisation. So we're huge advocates for the strategic PMO. And we also recognised a significant gap when it came to moving from education into employment and actually moving into the space of PMO as a career. Most of us fall into it. You work in projects, but especially if you work in PMO, you probably fell into it. It's rarely intentional from education into employment. So we work with local colleges and universities in order to bridge that gap and start introducing it to students. So there are two missions that we have in mind. And then we have three main pillars in the way that we work at Prospect Change. We like to refer to it as we do it for you, we do it with you, and we show you how to do it. We do it for you is very much consultancy services in terms of, if you could just skip on a slide, Dev, that'd be brilliant. So in terms of PMO as a service, so we can take that entire capability and enhance it or grow it on behalf of an organisation before handing it over and transitioning it into the permanent space. We can work alongside in order to bolster up either capacity or capability or both, and act as that real partner in terms of enhancing or growing or establishing a PMO capability. And then we have our new offering, which is PMO in a box. This is, you go to IKEA, you pick up a bunk bed, you take it home, you build it. It's the same sort of principle that works with PMO in a box. You purchase from Prospect Change the frameworks, the models, the life cycles, all the templates and processes for projects, programs and portfolios, and you roll it out within your organisation. Saves a huge amount of time and consultancy costs as well if you take that option. So they tend to be the three ways that we work. Any questions around that, get in touch with any one of us, and we'd love to chat to you. But let's get into it. The reason we're all here, making RAID work for you. So what is RAID? Let's get on the same page and make sure we're all singing from the same hymn sheet when we talk about what it is. So RAID can feel like a very heavy and administrative and complex project process, and it can drive people bonkers when it's considered very administrative. It stands for risks, assumptions, issues, dependencies. Usually you would have all of those four things, all of those four elements sitting within, for example, an Excel spreadsheet. Each of those items would have their own tabs and you would manage them differently. But it's absolutely essential that these four elements, particularly risks, assumptions, and dependencies, when I talk about concept, but all of them are considered from concept. So that's the concept of the project, the concept of the change before you've even got to the thinking about how you're going to do it, but just the need for change, that case for change, right through from delivery into handover to the organisation, handover into BAU. It's essential that throughout, from concept through to realisation, that RAID is utilised by the initiator, the project manager, the business lead. When it's utilised properly, it truly becomes a project manager's best friend, because it shouldn't just be about admin. It's truly how you stay in control from beginning right through to the end of a project. So a risk, that's what might go wrong and how are you going to stop it? That's the critical stuff. That's the critical element. How are you going to stop it? Issues, what has already gone wrong and we now need to fix it. An assumption, what are we believing to be true? But you need to fact check it. It's not certain right now. It's just a belief, not a fact. And dependencies are what must happen to pave the way for the next critical steps. Some of these dependencies are inter-project dependencies, and therefore they are elements of delivery that sit within the control of that project that will pave the way for the next element of delivery. But many dependencies sit outside of the project's control. And therefore, the only way that a project manager can get control of them is understanding what they are, logging them, creating a relationship with whoever is delivering it, and then measuring the success of that, managing the success of it until it's handed over into them. Next slide, please, Dev. When a project, and we'll go into more detail in this in the next couple of slides, but when a project first kicks off, there are things that you will know and there are things that you will not know. So there are certainties and there are a huge amount of uncertainties. And what you don't know and knowing what you don't know is just as important, if not as important, as knowing what you do know. And it's completely normal to start a project with huge amounts of uncertainty, because that's where the RAID log really comes into its own. You capture those uncertainties, those unknowns, in the RAID log, either as a risk, and this is a way that we always remember and help to format what should go into which element of a RAID. A risk is something that could happen. We don't want it to happen, but it could happen. An assumption is something that should happen. I do not like the word should. You know, if you're meeting up with someone or you have a plan in place and you say to them, will you be there on time? And they say, yeah, I should be. Well, you should be or you will be, because they're two very different things. The stuff that will happen, you can put into your plan, but your shoulds, you need to turn into wills, and they can go into your assumption. So they go into your assumption log. Assumptions should happen, but we need them to happen. An issue has happened and we didn't want it to. And a dependency must happen. It's the stuff you cannot move forward without. And just something to remember, because what destabilizes change is not uncertainty. You will always have uncertainty within the projects. What destabilizes it is just pretending that everything's okay and only communicating the certainties and just keeping the uncertainties quiet because we don't want to make anyone nervous. So we'll just pretend those uncertainties aren't there, when actually we should be bringing them to the forefront and communicating what we need to do to move those elements from uncertain into a place of certain. Oh yeah, good little box. Let's not forget about actions and decisions. I nearly did. So actions and decisions, I'm just going to say here, I have seen, and I like this, where RAID actually becomes a RAID. So you add to your RAID decisions and actions. We're not, just in the interest of time, going to delve deep into actions and decisions today, but I will just touch on them lightly, and I would encourage you, if you have the opportunity to create a RAID log from scratch and a RAID process from scratch, that you do incorporate actions and decisions. The reason being is that decisions are, I mean, we all know how decisions are. We could do an entire webinar on how important decisions are and how unused decisions are formally within projects. In fact, my two favourite processes within a project and within a PMO are assumptions and decisions, because they're so underused and underutilized, but they add so much value. Decisions, what are the key points in time? And imagine if you're at a fork in a road, we're going to go left, we're going to go right, are we going to go straight ahead? Well, if you decided to go right, why? Why not left? Why straight ahead? What was why did you rationalize that right was the right way to go? And who authorized that? So it's keeping a point of key decisions so that you can refer back and understand where you were at when you made that decision. Even if later down the line it turns out to be the wrong decision, you can understand why you made it. And it's it just provides a really strong audit trail and makes sure, very importantly, everyone's on the same page and you don't have 60% of the people going right, 30% going left and 10% merrily on the way going ahead. Yeah, that added up to 100, didn't it? So yes, do consider your decisions and actions when you're looking at RAID. Anyone, I'm sure you know where I'm going to go with this. You see a triangle, we're talking projects. It's the wonderful golden triangle, isn't it? So we have the triangle right there, smack bang in the middle of the triangle. We have the purpose, the value, the benefits, the why are you delivering a particular project? What's it going to cost you? What's included in the scope of that project and how long is it going to take you? What's the timeline for delivery and for that critical path? They are the three elements that must be very closely controlled: time, scope, cost. Once they're locked down, that's it. They don't move without authorization. Neither does the benefit and the value and the purpose in the middle. But the truth of it is, anything that you put in that RAID log, if you don't manage it properly, or it doesn't make it into the RAID log in the first place, it's going to impact the cost, or it's going to impact the timeline, or it's going to impact the scope, or the value and the benefit and the purpose in the middle, and it's going to impact it negatively. And that's why it needs to be in the RAID log. Because the role of a PM, the role of a project manager, is to protect that golden thread from approval, baseline, all the way through to delivery, and then, of course, handover for ongoing benefit realisation. Just bring that slide back for me, Dev, just to make sure I've covered all those points. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So capturing and managing all uncertainties, prevent and minimise negative impacts. Thanks so much, Dev. We can jump ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry,
Sorry, just not my day.
A good RAID log isn't about having more information. It's not about loading that up with as much information as you can possible to prove that you're doing the job right. It's just about having what's necessary in there that's useful, that's going to highlight the situation, the impact of that if it's not managed or not managed accurately, and what you're going to do about it, when and how and who. So every item in a RAID log, it just should answer a few simple questions. What is it? And why are we caring about it? Why does it need to go on here? Why does it matter? What are we going to do about it? Who owns it? That's really important. And we'll touch on that a little bit later, because often you can open up a risk log and you just see PM, 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 project manager responsible all the way down. And it's rarely the case. So who owns it? Who's actually going to be able to drive forward a validation, a resolution, a mitigant against these? And when? That's really important. When will it be resolved? And then how's it going? Check in. It's not a let's get it in the log and we'll revisit it in 6 months' time. No, it's a living, breathing document that should be reviewed on a very regular basis to understand how it is going, how things are progressing. So you should have, we love a RAG, right? You should have a RAG in there. Is it on track? Is it at risk? Do I need a little bit of support? Or is it a shining red? We're blocked on this. If we don't do something about this risk now, we're going to have an issue on our hands and we're going to push out the timeline, or we're going to increase the budget, or we're going to lose some scope. Because if something is sitting in the log and nothing changes, it is just admin and it's just unnecessary noise. It has to create movement, not just visibility. Visibility is important. Audit, control, and traceability are important. But the whole point of putting it in there, on there, is because there needs to be movement. There needs to be decisions made off the back of what's going into it. There needs to be action off the back of it. Thanks, Dev. I mentioned earlier that RAID is really important from concept through to delivery. And I just want to talk about that, specifically talking about concept and rationalisation, because often we don't see a RAID log appear within projects. or huge amount of reference to anything beyond risks until a project manager is assigned, the project is kicked off, and then out pops the RAID template. But actually, in order to accurately set expectations, what's being put forward via a case for change and via a business rationalisation, so the business case, needs to be caveated. It needs to be caveated with risks. So this business case will hold true, assuming we can prevent these risks from materialising and causing issues. This business case will hold true, assuming these assumptions are valid and we are correct on relying upon them. The business case will hold true, providing these dependencies deliver and we get X, Y, and Z from so-and-so projects. And sometimes this business case holds true, assuming that business issue over there can be resolved first. So caveating the business case with RAID is a very, very helpful way to set expectations, improve confidence levels and accuracy when it comes to the business case and the case for change generally. Then you move into delivery, and I think delivery is where we all probably feel quite comfortable when it comes to RAID. The RAID log's out, people are updating it. To what extent will vary, but the RAID log will usually exist for most projects. Throughout the delivery, you track and manage all unknowns, because your unknowns are what go into your RAID log through the RAID log mechanism: risks, issues, assumptions, dependencies, decisions and actions if you bob them on there as well. You agree in your short-term and long-term actions with dates and owners. So if there are quick wins to mitigate a risk, what are those quick wins? And then how are you progressing with those mitigants? And if it's long-term actions, when do you need to revisit that risk? Something that is often helpful is if it's a critical mitigant, for example, within a risk, or it's a critical validation date, or even a critical delivery for a dependency, to put some of those items into the project plan as well. It can feel like duplication, but plans are reviewed more regularly often than RAID logs, and it's easier to look through a plan and just filter. So copying some of those critical tasks across into a plan is a 2-minute job, but it just really bolsters up and makes sure nothing is forgotten or left. And it drives that certainty, as I mentioned earlier. It drives certainty from uncertainty, because that's what you're trying to get to here with your RAID log. And then the final element of this is handover. And again, this is often disregarded. It's often forgotten about. The project delivers, we all go out and celebrate, it closes down, the RAID log's filed away. But actually, were there any risks in there that should have handed over to the business for ongoing management? Were those benefit realisation? Benefit realisation often happens much later after the project closes. You don't realise change and benefit usually at the point of closure, that comes later. So do you need to caveat benefit realisation and change realisation with any ongoing RAID items, risks, assumptions, dependencies? And are there any issues that the business lead or business owner that is receiving this needs to take note of and be aware of? If you represent a PMO and you're designing these processes on the call today, I would say don't hand over your RAID log template to a business owner. Try and do a simplified version of it, a really cut down version to make it very easy for them to understand and manage without them having to pick up project terminology. But do still consider your RAID item very, very important as part of handover. Dev, I'm going to hand over to yourself now to talk through the problems. Any questions, bob them in the chat and we'll answer as we go. And once Dev's talked us through the problems, we'll jump into very quickly the role of PMO, hopefully leaving us with a bit of time for group discussion at the end of it. We'll try and get done within the next 15 minutes, so we've got that time for group discussion. But thanks so much, Dev. Over to yourself.
Thank you, Ruth. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, problem 1. Passive RAID. A RAID is widely used but often passively. It turns into something that exists in the process but doesn't actively influence it. It becomes a document that is updated regularly, a standing agenda item in meetings, a reporting requirement, but not a tool that actually drives control. We can see some of the symptoms here. There's activity, but not much actually changing. Issues stay open across multiple reporting cycles. Dependencies are listed, but not actively coordinated. The golden triangle starts to drift. Risks and validation actions are assigned, but there's no urgency behind them. The same action appear week after week. You experience firefighting and challenge after a challenge. You know what could go wrong, should happen, and must happen, but nothing is really being done about it. RAID becomes a status update, not a decision tool. And how to solve that? This isn't a tool problem, it's a behavioral shift. RAID needs to move from being something we maintain to something we actively rely on for momentum. That means challenging items, not just recording them, using RAID in conversations, not just reports, driving actions to completion, linking RAID directly to decisions and plans. Because if nothing changes as a result of RAID, it's not doing its job. Anything you would like to add, Ruth?
Hang on, I'm muted. No, that's great, Dev. Thank you.
The second problem, recording versus driving. There's often a focus on how well RAID is recorded, not how well it performs. Organization measures success through completeness of logs, frequency of updates, not quality, ticking boxes of how, not what, but not through outcomes or quality of content. Some of the symptoms we can see about recording versus driving. This creates a disconnect between information and action. Issues are updated but not resolved. Delivery dates are current but keep getting pushed. Items are rarely closed down. The log is updated by one person, not as a collective group. The golden triangle again starts to drift. You experience firefighting and challenge after challenge. Everything is visible, but nothing is moving. And how to solve that? Effective RAID management isn't about ticking boxes, it's about driving solution, action, and certainty, as we mentioned earlier. It provides a record and audit trail, but is the engine towards stability. RAID must be reviewed as a team, not in solos. Your PMO and impacted projects must have visibility, include them in conversations. Reflect critical RAID outputs in plans. Challenge for update and momentum. Every single item should lead to something. A decision, a clear action and owner, a defined outcome, what is success, a time frame. And the third problem, structure and ownership. Two consistent challenges come up again and again. Weak ownership, too much volume. Symptoms. You'll often see things like a name is assigned but responsibility isn't clear. The project manager is shown as the owner for everything, as we mentioned earlier. No delivery dates for mitigation or validation actions. Actions without follow-ups. Large volumes of low impact items. Everything gets captured, but nothing gets prioritized. Effective RAID is about focus, not volume. That means one clear and accurate owner per item, clear expected outcomes, define priority levels, removing items that don't add value. Because control doesn't come from tracking everything, it comes from focusing on what actually matters. I'll pass it down to Ruth again for role of PMO.
Lovely, thanks, Dev. And I would just say, just on that, on one of, I think it was problem 2, where we talked about, and Matthew, you said, have you said it? Keyword is management, not recording. It's so true, because if you're just often PMs can fall into recording, not for the want of trying. It's busyness. Everybody's very busy, and actually, if it doesn't feel like the raid log is driving forward decision, it feels like a waste of time almost. But the PM has to be the one that drives forward the management of that, not the recording of it. And I would say, if you're here representing a PMO, think about the way that you're assuring, and we'll touch on it in a moment in point 4 there, but think about the way that you're assuring projects and portfolios, so that it's not just looking at items to make sure nothing's shown as in the past, but actually it's more about looking at the quality of the updates that are going in there. So it's not just a quantitative update of, does it look like all these risks have been updated in the past month? But actually, when it says they've been updated, what updates have actually gone in there? And is it driving forward momentum, or is it just recording, as you've said, Matthew? And on that note, let's talk about the role of a PMO when it comes to RAID management. A PMO cannot do its job effectively if RAID is not being accurately managed at project level. They go hand in hand. A project needs the principles that a project needs the principles that a RAID log stands for and represents in order to be successful. But a PMO needs projects to align to RAID and deliver RAID standards in order to effectively record, track, and manage, assure the portfolio and maintain that golden thread. The PMO has 4 key roles when it comes to RAID. Air traffic control is one of them. We love referring to PMO as our air traffic control. And actually it came from Asher, did that. Asher, we met Asher during one of the Prospect Change Academies, and we said, could anybody in their own way describe what a PMO does after, I think it was a second session. And Asher said, well, I think it sounds like PMO is the air traffic control. It works as an air traffic control for projects. And ever since then, we've latched onto that and we love it. So we find it just a really great way to talk about the value that PMO brings. So if we could just jump onto that slide, Dev, please. So air traffic control of change. If you imagine that every pilot is the project manager. So project manager is like the pilot. They know all about their own plane. They know all about their own project. They know when they need to take off, how they're going to fly, how they're going to take care of their passengers that are on that plane, those impacted by the change, and their project team, and they know how they're going to land it successfully. But they don't know what's going on with the other planes around them. So that's the role of your air traffic control. Your air traffic control needs to keep an eye on what planes are taking off, what planes are landing, what planes are in their airspace. When the weather gets tricky, what planes need to go up a level, what need to drop down, what planes need to speed up and slow down, and actually which planes may need to stay on the runway. The air traffic control does not need to know about issues and risks such as one particular plane has run out of mac and cheese, and so their passengers can't have mac and cheese on the menu. The air traffic control doesn't need to know about that, but they do need to know if that plane has trouble with their engine, because that could impact the overall success of that plane landing successfully. It could also impact other planes within the airspace. So there are certain RAID items, risks, assumptions, dependencies, that if that project doesn't manage them effectively, it will hinder significantly the success of that project, but also potentially the success of other projects on that portfolio, other planes in that airspace or on that runway. So that's what the PMO needs to know about. And the PMO performs that oversight across the portfolio. They see that they see the big picture, the holistic landscape. And if something will impact another project or another program, they will communicate that out and they will manage that and understand the impact on another project in order to minimize that as much as possible. So it's very important that RAID items are communicated up to the PMO, and the PMO have a capability to track and oversee and assure RAID items across the project so they know what needs to be pulled up and extracted up so that they can understand the impact across their airspace, across their portfolio. We can jump on there, Dev, to the next slide, please.
Oh, yes, sorry, I was just hitting the wrong keyboard at the time.
Thank you. Ground level working, that was it. I knew there was another in my mind. Ground level working. So as well as the PMO being up here, looking at that holistic view, the PMO should also be delving deeper and supporting projects on the ground. And that will look different depending on the capacity of each PMO within an organisation. We've worked in PMOs within organisations where they've got huge PMOs, where every project is assigned their own PMO analyst. You've got your frontline PMOs that are working with projects, and then you've got your central. But then we've worked in others where the PMO is a two-person band and they're trying to oversee the entire portfolio. So what that looks like will vary depending on capacity, but a PMO should be able to support down on the ground, and that could look like running workshops right at the beginning of a project. So running planning workshops and dependency workshops, exploring deeper into risks, running lessons learned sessions to drive out what could be going wrong and challenging that project midway through and prior to delivery in order to resolve that with the project before it could impact at the point of go live. So the PMO should be providing as much as they're able to from a capacity point of view, that on the ground support. I think it's amazing if you can have a PMO capability where they can assign project support officers or PMO analysts to each particular project. But of course, we know, particularly in this day and age, the budget doesn't allow always to go that far. But that on the ground support should absolutely be an objective of every PMO in order to bring that value at that deeper and more detailed perspective. The next links in quite well to this, which is learnings. So the PMO, because they've got that on the ground experience and oversight, is that they can become the custodians of all elements when it comes to the learning side of projects. So what lessons have been learned from projects that have gone before, things that have gone really well that you want to replicate, and also things that have caused challenge and gone wrong that you want to dodge and avoid going forward. So a project that's just getting started, being able to lean on the PMO as the custodians of prior learning is really, really useful, particularly when it comes to what has gone wrong before and what could we do to stop it, risks. Where do we get tripped up before because we assumed something to be true, and actually when it came to it, we didn't have access to that particular site, so particular system, or we didn't have access to those particular IT resources, and it delayed the project. So what did we assume prior that actually never materialised? And you can bob them on your assumptions logs. And also, hey PMO, I've got this project. Where might I be dependent and where might others be dependent on me? So there's got that lessons learned that can come prior, that of projects that have come prior that the PMO can share. And then the final one, which again I did touch on after the problem section, which was assurance. And this can look different again for every single PMO and also the culture of an organisation. But you would expect to see things like stage gate reviews, gateway reviews. So as a project is moving from one phase to another, the PMO will do a deep dive into that project and understand how well it's adhering to standards, not just when it comes to recording and ticking boxes, but actually managing and using the principles that those standards stand for in order to support and help them in their delivery. Delivery assurance is a bit more of an ad hoc, although it helps if a schedule guides this, which is looking, and delivery assurance does tend to be more quantitative based. So is it being recorded accurately? Are documents being updated? Is the general hygiene of a project healthy and good? And health checks, or as some like to call them audits, which we tend to avoid that term audits, but health checks of a project, a real immersive deep dive into the project to really uncover what is going on in that particular project. And yes, this can feel difficult for a project team. It can feel exceptionally difficult for a project manager. I've been on both sides of the fence. I much preferred being on the PMO side of it than the PM side of it. I admit it is not the nicest of experiences when you're having your project health checked. but you have to understand that your project is one piece of a jigsaw. And the PMO are reviewing your piece of the jigsaw to make sure it's going to fit in quite neatly and nicely into that holistic picture, and it's not become accidentally misshapen, and therefore when it comes to placing it into the big picture, it no longer fits. So it's just analysing that your project is doing what it needs to do in order to fit into the wider picture of the strategy. All PMOs should be doing these levels of deep dives, and these as a minimum is what we always recommend at Prospect Change. That brings us to our discussion point within today's session. So we can stop sharing, and then we can see anybody that would like to be on camera and ask any questions and contribute, etc. So I think that does bring us to time, and Dev in a moment is just going to tell you about the next webinar. I'm just bobbing in the chat here our LinkedIn page for Prospect Change. Do give us a follow, and all of our events are shared on there, and also my booking link. So if you did want to continue the conversation, or you want to have a chat, or there's anything you want to explore a little bit further, put some time in my diary and we'll pick up one-to-one.
All right, everyone, time to wrap up. First of all, generally, thank you for being here. I know everyone got a busy schedule, so the fact that you chose to spend your time with us, it does mean a lot. Whether you're nodding along, taking notes, or quietly absorbing it all, you were part of that. You're part of what made this work, this session work. These webinar doesn't magically appear on your screen. There's a lot of thinking, planning, and behind the scenes graft that goes into making them run smoothly and keeping them accessible. Oh, sorry, is there someone has a hand up? Oh, thank you. Oh, sorry. Accessible for everyone. So yeah, big credit for Regen and Asha. Now before everybody disappears into your day, we got our next event happening on the 10th of June, Wednesday, 10th of June, lunchtime again. It's create a compelling business case. If you found this webinar useful, you would honestly enjoy the next one of the two. Thank you so much for joining in, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks so much, all. Take care.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.